AFR On Demand is brought to you by Breck Golf. Try Beaver Creek today, just 20 minutes from downtown Baton Rouge in the Zachary area. They've got a PGA Tour driving range, a short game practice area, 30 to 40-yard practice shots. It's a great place to chip and putt and practice if you don't have time for a full round. Book your tee time today, golf.breck.org, golf.breck.org.
Matt Moscona.
I'm very important.
After further review.
Say it one more time.
After further review with Matt Moscona.
And here we go.
Live from the Raising Cane studio.
Let's ride!
And off we go. Welcome aboard. Glad you're with us. It's AFR powered by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana. I'm Matt.
This is Shaq O'Neal, and I hate Matt.
Paul O'Neal.
They're chanting Paul O'Neal's name.
You. So. And Mr. Toby Tomplay. All right, we're here. Glad you are as well. Get out there and make it a good one. Shea Dixon, 15 minutes. Coach Pete Jenkins, 1 hour from right now. Looking forward to that conversation. Could the Pels be close to hiring a coach? Jake Madison's here in hour 3. Ton to do. Let us begin as we do every single day.
It's time to pop the top on another edition of AFR with Bud Light. Drink easy.
Well, this is going to be downright devastating. This is going to be downright devastating to all the people who love to hate Will Wade. Last week, if you were here on the show, I believe it was Monday, I told you about the experience I had at the LSU Max Gala, and Will Wade was not there. And I was asking around. There were a lot of basketball staff and obviously administrators. A lot of people were there. And I was asking around, I was like, where's Will? And I was told he was in Istanbul recruiting. And the phrase that several people shared with me was that he was crushing the portal. Meanwhile, the only name that everyone knew was Mo Diabate. It was the only portal commit that LSU had at that point. And boy, everybody got jokes, especially all them NC State people. I actually don't know which group right now is more insufferable. The Ole Miss fans that are sour about losing Kiffin or the NC State fans that are sour about losing Will Wade. I don't really care. They're both equally pathetic and annoying. But Will Wade, I kind of got the feeling if Will Wade was sitting on a bunch of silent commits, that maybe part of the reason he was doing it is because Will just likes to troll people. Like, he liked to be sitting there knowing he had the trump card and waiting just to slam it on the table. Well, Will Wade did that. He was on John Rothstein's podcast, and this is what he said.
Well, low volume in terms of what you guys know. We got 7 or 8 guys, so we're not too worried. We've got some good guys. Look, for a bunch of reasons, we're not announcing things. Some guys are still playing in the playoffs. There's a lot of different things going on. So, look, by the day school starts, we'll have a real good team. And that's all that matters is by the end of August, we'll have a great team that can compete with just about anybody in the SEC and anybody nationally.
Okay. So he said they've got 7 or 8 guys right now. Let's kind of go through a little bit of what we know. All right. Well, first of all, we just mentioned Mo Diabate, and we've talked about him already. Started his career at Alabama, transferred to Kentucky, 3-year contributor, mostly a bench player. Right, a depth piece, but a guy that's been really good, high energy, small forward coming off the bench. Remember, they've also got Marcus Vaughns already enrolled. So Marcus Vaughns is out of the NBA Global Academy, so he's out of Australia, and he's signed, and he's already enrolled. So he's on campus. So that's 2 that are signed, sealed, delivered, done. And then remember, Kevin Thomas also was part of the 2026 class, signed his letter of intent. He's a small forward, 6'6", 195, a 4-star, ranked number 79 nationally, so a top 100 player in the country. So you've already got those three. Like, those are three that you know are on the roster. So everybody's kind of been talking about Diabate, and they only have one player. Well, not really. They got three for sure. I'm not saying you're going to go play a game with three, but Will there said they've got 7 or 8. Well, you can kind of sift your way through some of what else we know or how you can kind of piece things together, and the timing of this does make sense a little bit. So remember, it started to break about a week ago that Salou Niang was planning to commit to LSU. Okay, now the reports were Republica, an international outlet, reported that it was a $7 million deal. He's got a $500,000 buyout of his contract. He was a draft and stash player. The Cleveland Cavaliers picked him in the draft, sent him overseas. He was the 58th pick of the draft. He's playing for a team in the Italian league, Virtus Bologna. So they'll get a $500,000 buyout. He's set to make $7 million. Again, that's the report from Republica. We'll see if that actually comes to fruition, but that's a name to know. That would be 4. And then Alan Graves is the other name that has been most prominent. I think we've talked about Alan's story plenty, right? He's from Ponchatoula. His brother Marshall Graves played at LSU. Well, Alan spent his freshman year at Santa Clara this year, where he was the West Coast Conference Freshman of the Year. He's the one who hit what would have been the game-winning shot against Kentucky in the NCAA tournament until Kentucky hit their own dramatic shot to answer. And then Graves declared for the draft and simultaneously entered the portal. And all of the outlets are saying basically he's got 3 choices. He's either going to stay in the draft and go pro, he's going to go to Duke, or he's going to go to LSU. The reported offer from Duke is $4 million. I was told, and I have no problem repeating this on air, I was told, and I trust this information, that LSU would match whatever Duke offers. So if it's 4, LSU will pay 4. If they go up, LSU will go up, and that's what it'll take to get Alan Graves. I don't know what the dollar spend is going to be on this roster. I can't tell you that because I don't know, and we don't know all the names yet, and I don't know all the names yet. But Will's comments to John Rothstein sort of validate what I was told 10 days ago, that he's kind of crushing it and they feel really good about where they are. And Will said some guys are playing in the postseason. That would give you a lean toward it being more of an international roster. That's what he's talking about, guys in international leagues that are playing in their postseason right now. Will he was asked by Rothstein if his roster building philosophy has changed, which would lean to more of an international flair.
This year I'm going to lean a little heavier on the international route. This is the last year that a lot of kids over there are going to be eligible, some of the older kids, because of the clock issues.
Yeah.
Just those kids have a lot of experience. There's just some natural things that they've learned over there that really help in college basketball and can translate to us in college basketball. And so we're going to do that. We're going to certainly get some of the best guys we can from the transfer portal. We've gotten a couple already, and we're going to try to get a couple more, but we're going to supplement that with some overseas guys.
Okay, so he's telling you there that they're going to go international, which speaks to what I was told last Saturday at the gala that he was at the time in Istanbul recruiting. But the other thing, which might validate these dollar amounts, right? If it is $7 million for Niang, if it is $4 million for Graves, however that may shake out. Another thing that Rothstein asked Wade was about the mistakes he made building the roster last year at NC State. And correcting that mistake may validate some of these numbers. Listen.
One thing that we did last year that I made a mistake on was, we basically paid 11 guys when we went out and got 11 guys and had a lot of depth. And depth's really important for practice. It's not as important for games when you're only playing 7 or 8 guys, 9 max. And so we had some dead money on the roster. So one thing I'm focusing on here is we're really going to pay 7 or 8 guys at LSU this year, and we'll fill out the back half of the roster with some guys who could help us in a pinch. But we want to put our resources into. We want to put our resources into those main guys.
So there it is, sort of understandable now when you talk about the high dollar amounts for these top tier guys, because if you're not paying everybody and you're focusing your resources on just a few players, then it makes that, the number that was sort of floated was 12 to 15 million on the roster. Well, if it's accurate that Niang is going to get 7 million and Graves is maybe in the market for 4, that's 11 right there and 2 guys. I mean, I'm being very, very clear. I do not know if the Niang number is correct. The $4 million for Graves, I believe that is accurate or close to accurate. But the point is, it would speak to that you're not going to go spend $30 million or $20 million on a roster. But if you're focusing the money you do have, the $12, $15 million on a handful of guys, you can make that money stretch for a bunch of top-tier guys. So let not your heart be troubled. And unless if you hate Will Wade, which I know some of you hate watch this show and you love to hate Will Wade, that's got to be a terrible day for you because Will Wade is basically telling you he's got a stacked roster. They're spending money. They're going to have a veteran international team, and they're going to be ready to compete with anybody in the SEC. So Wade being quiet, mostly, but out there doing work. All right, it's After Further Review. We're glad you're hanging out with us here on this Tuesday edition of AFR, powered by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana. Our show open is brought to you by Bud Light, so drink easy with the great taste of Bud Light. Raise an ice-cold Bud Light to the General Will Wade. Doing work out there. Baseball Tigers are back at the box tonight. Going to be out there to watch LSU. The Tigers and Tulane. Make sure you toast an ice-cold Bud Light. Drink easy with the great taste of Bud Light, the official beer of AFR, the official beer of your Fighting Tigers of LSU. Hat tip to our friends at Mockler Beverage, great partner of LSU Athletics. All right, y'all, we'll go around the SEC in about 18 minutes from right now. When we come back, Shady will be aboard. My goodness, do we have a lot of recruiting to get to. Ahmad Hudson commits. LSU picks up a JUCO cornerback. The number one corner in America who was thought to be an LSU lean. Now is he actually headed to College Station? Ton to do. The latest on Easton Royal. We're going to get to all of that with Shea Dixon next.
AFR.
YourGoodWood.com. Visit the website right now. YourGoodWood.com. Get out your phone. If you're at your desktop, go to YourGoodWood.com. A funny name, I get it. The funny logo, all that stuff. You can laugh. And yes, they do ED treatments. They do so much more than that at Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness. Hormone replacement therapy is something that so many men are on that have changed the lives for so many men. And if you've ever considered HRT, schedule your appointment with Goodwood. It's so easy. They're going to do a blood draw. They're going to take a few small vials of blood. They're going to send it to the lab. Less than a day, they're going to have the results, and they'll let you know what your hormone levels are and if you're a candidate for HRT. If you're already on HRT with another clinic, Goodwood has the best prices, they got the best service, and they pay for your 6-month blood labs. YourGoodWood.com. YourGoodWood.com.
After Further Review, powered by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana.
Coach Pete Jenkins, start hour number 2. It's about 45 minutes from right now. Louisiana line camp's coming up, and I'm really interested to talk to Coach Pete, both about Lane Kiffin, but also he knows Kevin Peoples really well, and Peoples is obviously going from coaching edge to kicking inside to coach tackle. So we're going to talk about that with Coach Pete. We'll do that coming up next hour. Oh, Chris Doring is here next hour as well, kind of a spring football recap. He's very high on your Fighting Tigers of LSU. Shea Dixon on 3, the Bengal Tiger, good enough to hang out with us as he does on every Tuesday, powered by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana. Shady, how are you, man?
I'm doing well. I'm not going to steal Pete's thunder here by saying this at all, but I really think Kevin Peoples might be one of the more underrated staffers they've got in terms of guys that fans actually talk about.
That's fair. He is loud. You can go to practice and you never have to guess where Kevin Peoples is. It's just like listen to the voice boom. And it's like, there he is. He's over there. Got him. See him. Hey, man, a loud commit on Sunday morning. Ahmad Hudson pulled the trigger. Shea, I don't think it was necessarily a surprise that he picked LSU. The timing, just doing it seemingly randomly on a Sunday morning kind of did. Walk me through this. How it came to pass that Hudson decided to pull the trigger on Sunday morning. Did we lose Shea? All right, I think we maybe lost Shea. Let's try to reconnect with him there if we can. All right, we'll talk. There's a lot I want to get to here with Shea. Of course, I want to talk Ahmad Hudson, Levante Williams, the cornerback JUCO commit that LSU got as well. I want to get the backstory there because Lane Kiffin went from on Tuesday saying the roster's the roster to then on Saturday adding a cornerback. So We'll get that story there. Easton Royal, Josh Dobson, some of the other guys want to hit on. Let's see if we can get back on. We just get better audio on the computer. Let's try to get it on the computer if we can. Okay. All right, we're going to reconnect here with Shea. That gives me a quick minute. Let me knock this out. We're brought to you by Rouse's, the official supermarket of the Saints. Hey, today, Cinco de Mayo. If you're not going out for Cinco de Mayo, you want to have your own Cinco de Mayo party in-house, awesome. Our friends at Rouse's have you covered for everything Cinco de Mayo. If you need your chips and dips and salsas, Rouse's has you covered. Great specials as well. You need your tacos, hard shell, soft shell, your ground meat to make your tacos, fajitas, quesadillas, whatever you may be making on the Cinco de Mayo, maybe a margarita or two. Lime, salt, they got it all for you over at Rouse's. RTDs as well. Hey, you're going to be having a Cinco de Mayo party. Rouse's can help you out. Rouse's.com. Rouse's.com or get by any of the 76 Rouse's locations. Rouse's, this feels like home. Okay, we got Shea back. Sorry about that, Shea. So we're just starting to talk about Ahmad Hudson and how LSU made it happen on Sunday morning.
Yes, Hudson was, I think you have to go back, Matt, to the summer after his 8th grade year. So going into his 9th grade year at Ruston, J.R. Belton, a North Louisiana guy, West Monroe quarterback back in the day, who's been on the LSU staff for a bit now, from Brian Kelly through to the Lane Kiffin era, even with a promotion in this Kiffin era as the assistant GM under Billy Glasscock. He was the one that called him out and said, hey, look, LSU's going to offer you. And that really got his recruitment rolling. And look, this is a legacy. His dad played basketball. We talked about that a ton for John Brady. LSU is, like I said, recruited him from the start before he even got into high school. And even through these coaching changes, I think that when you had people there like JR, who he knew, and other staffers, and you couple that with bringing in Lane Kiffin and Charlie Weiss and what they're talking about doing with Trey-Dez this year and how Ahmad could be the heir apparent to that, presuming Trey-Dez does go pro after this season, couple all that together with, Nebraska was the other school, but everyone always kind of felt like he would stay home. So I think LSU really, Matt, just said, hey, are you ready to get this done? Can we get this done? And the answer obviously was a yes. And it takes everybody surprised when even Hayes doesn't have the edit ready. That's when you know you're moving low key. I mean, I'm telling you.
LSU got it done. Ahmad Hudson picks the Tigers. What's interesting, Shea, about this class is he's the 5th commit. So the quantity isn't necessarily there, but they're a top 10 class with only 5 commits, so the quality is there. Are we learning anything about the numbers that they're going to take in this class as a result of where they are with the commitment number?
I've always circled around 20, and Kiffin fluctuated from that 20 to 23, 4, 5 range at Ole Miss. And, it's not apples to apples, but it won't be as heavy, right, as 40-something guys in the portal every year. And it won't be as light as, what did they sign, 16, 17 guys? Like maybe, but I would guess around 20. And we were talking about this same thing when they wrapped up with 16 or 17 guys was, okay, no, they didn't go out and sign 25, 30 high school players, but pound for pound, they ranked right behind Oregon in terms of the highest star rating on average for your commits. So it packed a real punch. And you bring up the point now that they have 5 guys committed. They're the only team out there in college football that have at least 5 guys committed who are all blue chippers, which Rivals just defines, and I think everybody does, of if you're a 5 or a 4-star, right? And you're in the Rivals 300, you're considered a blue chip football prospect. All 5 of their commits fit the bill there, and certainly none more highly ranked than the one that they just got in Ahmad Hudson being the number 1 tight end in America.
He's Shea Dixon from On3, the Bengal Tiger. Shea, the other commitment that LSU got over the weekend is kind of an interesting one. It's cornerback Levante Williams from Georgia Military College. And it's interesting because on Tuesday, Lane Kiffin said, the roster is the roster. And then on Saturday, they pop up with a cornerback commit. So how did this happen seemingly so fast?
Yeah, I think Corey Raymond, you and I were sitting down there for the interview with Lane. I think Corey must have been listening upstairs because Lane said, this is it. There's nowhere to go. There's no spring portal window. And so Corey Raymond went the only way you can go, JUCO, right? Um, a guy like this playing at Georgia Military Academy, who they had just signed Adrian Lamb, an offensive lineman, out of the school back in January during the loan portal window. He was a JUCO guy who, I guess they're not in the portal, but it happened in that stretch. So they had an eye on him. They knew who he was, and he's had some college offers. And a number of guys did this in JUCO where they waited out, that kind of January period to see if there were teams that would come, biting more than they had before after spring ball, knowing that FBS schools are not going to allow transfers in a second window, at least this year. So a guy like this was either going to commit to a college, and if he didn't pick up offers, he would just go back to another year of JUCO. But he had offers, and I think LSU offered Matt on Thursday. By Friday, it was like monsooning in Baton Rouge, and he had already driven in from Georgia, and by Saturday he had committed. So all in here. And look, we're talking about a guy who is 6'2". They think he'll be around 180 by camp. And we know that DJ Pickett and PJ Whitland are starting. We went to the practices and saw Jakeem Jackson, who Corey Raymond signed at Florida. Like Matt, we had him as the number 3 corner in the country. He just got banged up when they were at Florida. And then he was behind guys last year when he was trying to get back from injury. If healthy, he's been the 3rd guy out there. And then you lost Aiden Andings. So you've got Michael Turner, a converted wide receiver from John Curtis. You've got Haven Finney, who's had a really nice spring camp from what we saw and kind of what the reviews from people I've talked to have said. And I'm sure you the same. But look, he reclassified. He's like 17 years old right now. So that's even more impressive. But can you get a little bit more depth there? They've got some other guys, obviously, but now you bring in a kid like this who's already been playing JUCO ball. He played a full season this past year. They play some good teams, and he's got the size and athleticism to where I think you say, hey, look, come in, work your way in fall camp. You're not expected to start. You may not even be the 3rd guy on the field, but you give us depth, and that is I don't know. You may even have asked a question. I can't remember, but someone had asked what the concern was coming out of spring ball.
Yeah, it was
at
me.
least maybe position wise. And Lane said corner. And now, a week later, we're sitting here talking about the addition of a corner for this year's roster who plays to that depth piece that Kevin was talking about by losing Aiden Anding.
It's a body. We'll see how it may look when they get out there and run around a little bit in fall camp. Shea Dixon, got a couple more for you. He's on Twitter at Shea Dixon, on 3 the Bengal Tiger. A cornerback who's going to be expected to step on the field, play immediately, no matter where he goes, is 5-star Josh Dobson. And this is a guy we've talked about a lot, Shea. And up until this point, it kind of felt like LSU was in the lead. Well, Wilt Fong now has put in a prediction for Dobson to Texas A&M. What's the latest there?
Yeah, and look, I'll speak for Wilt Fong here because I know how he operates once he has on LSU, and he tries to play or at least paint the picture of from talking to his sources and how he feels and his experience of who might have the lead at the moment. And he feels like that might be A&M right now. That being said, Josh Dobson has made so many visits to teams across the country. He's got a slew of official visits coming. He's not got a commitment date. He's not going to Ahmad Hudson this and pop and commit tomorrow or anything of that nature that I know of. And right now, as we speak, they're practicing out in North Carolina, and Corey Raymond's out there watching him practice. Coaches are on the road right now. So LSU's been all over this one. They're going to get an official visit, and the pitch is no different than it was to DJ Pickett, than it was to Haven Finney, who was the number 1 cornerback in his class before he reclassified. Here's the DBU tradition. Obviously, NIL and all that gets discussed, but what Corey Raymond is really known for is I can develop guys who become high-level SEC players who get to play a lot in college, and then if you follow on that track record and you've got the athleticism, you might wind up a first-round pick. That's what we just saw with Mansour Delane, or any pick in the draft, right? Like we saw Cordell Flott and all these guys come in as 3 stars and start and get drafted and play in the NFL. So, it's a long process. I have a pick in. It's on LSU. I'm not moving that right now. And I think in large part, just it kind of reminds me of DJ Pickett, to where he talks up a lot of programs, but when he gets to LSU, it's very coach specific, which is kind of how we've known Corey Raymond to be, kind of year in and year out, when he finds that kind of one big guy and then fills it in with a handful of others that he feels like he can develop.
Shea, one more by the way, do we have a commitment date for Dobson? Did I miss that?
I think it's in July, maybe, but he's going to do official visits in June. So at the end of June hits a dead period. So I think it's sometime after that, which is when we see a lot of kids do it. Okay,
last thing. Let's get an update on Easton Royal, because he's been a frequent visitor at LSU, but he took a visit to Ole Miss. So what can you tell us? It's the latest there with the number one receiver in the country.
Committed to Texas still. I remind people the fun fact here: he commits to Texas the day before news breaks that Lane is LSU's new head coach. But he, as you said, he's been around LSU a ton as a Texas commit. He and his mom were at, I guess, the penultimate scrimmage, maybe the final one. It was one of those. But he's given all of these visits just really rave reviews. And now he's visiting Ole Miss. He's visiting this past weekend. He's, as you said, LSU. There's been a handful of other SEC schools. If this were an LSU commitment right now from the state of Texas and he was making all these visits, you would just probably presume he's not going to LSU. I don't know where Texas stands on this. Obviously, they're going to do all they can to keep the number one receiver in the country committed, but he is in New Orleans at Brother Martin. And I don't know, Matt, if it's now or if it's signing day, but I still think when the dust settles, that Easton Royal would be a Tiger, and I base that off of not just how he's talked about the school and kind of the buzz you hear around it, but we saw what Lane did in the portal. We saw what Lane did with Lamar Brown and Richard Anderson in 72 hours to ensure that these 5 stars signed. We saw him flip a 5-star from Ole Miss in Corey Barber, a receiver, in just 2 days, basically. It might have been the same day he got hired. So you get to that portal and you sign 3 of the top 5 players that went into the portal are on LSU's roster now: Levitt, Seaton, and Prince Will as an edge rusher at 3 of the most important positions. And I think he looks at Louisiana and says, he's the number one recruit. I'm an offensive guy. He's the number one receiver in the country. What do we have to do to get him? And I think these unofficial visits have been big, and you'll get an official visit out of him. And look, remember DeCorey Moore was committed to LSU, and everyone was like, is he really going to stick? He's not even from the state. He'll go to Texas or maybe Oregon. And that's how it played out. I think this is the reverse of that. I think that they're going to really put an emphasis on keeping these top guys home. And you just did it with Ahmad Hudson. Now I think that the focus sort of turns to Easton Royal.
Shea Dixon from On3, the Bengal Tiger. Get him at Shea Dixon. Shady, we appreciate it, man. Thanks for the time.
No problem, Matt. Talk soon.
I'm in. We'll do it again next week. It's After Further Review. Powered by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana. We're not going to quick break, go around the SEC. Jay Johnson updates some baseball injuries. We'll get to that here in about 15 minutes. And Coach Pete Jenkins to start hour number 2, about 30 minutes from right now. Don't you move. It's AFR.
AFR.
I had an awesome lunch last Thursday. It was over at Renaissance Baton Rouge at Tallulah. Chef Reed rolled out the red carpet. Man, I was first of all, I was stuffed. They had to roll me out of there because Chef Reed has updated, really in the last 2 weeks, they updated the menu. And so if it's been a while since you've been to Tallulah, or if you've never been to Tallulah, now's a great opportunity to get by and give it a try. Man, the appetizers, pork bellies, absolutely incredible. It's like this pork belly that comes on a lettuce wrap with peppers in there as well. It's you can eat it almost like a taco, or you can use your fork and eat it how you want. But no matter what you try, everything is outstanding. It's a casual upscale dining experience. It's Tallulah inside of the Renaissance Hotel. So check them out on Bluebonnet at Renaissance Baton Rouge.
After Further Review, powered by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana.
Hot summer sun over by the gate, Lordy, here she comes with a basket full of chicken and a big cold jug of sweet tea.
A big shout out, as always, to our friends over at Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana. Was chatting with Grace, my friends over at Sunshine, earlier today. Of course, you got to remember, a lot of people think John Deere is just the most expensive when it comes to smaller tractors. But, man, they are you got to get that out of your brain. They are affordable, they have financing options, and they are awesome to deal with. And let's be real. You need a tractor? You can drive ride anything other than a Deere? Let's go. Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana. Sunequip.com, sunequip.com. We go around the SEC in just a quick second. The NFL draft is in the rearview mirror. One of the things I always like to look at whenever writers do this, it's they'll get coaches to give anonymous comments about players or other coaches or things like that. And one of the things that we always do before the season, before the college football season, Athlon always does this piece that we cite every year, where they give anonymity to coaches to talk about other schools in their league. And as I always say, one of the things you have to do is you just kind of have to give them the benefit of the doubt and trust that you believe that their info and their sources are good, that if they're talking to an SEC assistant, that it's someone who you think would be credible and not someone far down the line. And I don't know. So I'll often consider the source, who's writing it, but I like those types of pieces, when we have the opportunity to talk about it. So Adam Rittenberg over at ESPN talked to college coaches about recent NFL draft picks. And there was a little, certainly SEC and some LSU flair. The fascinating part was how many coaches sort of poo-pooed the Ty Simpson pick, which was, I think it's fair to say. Is it fair to say the Ty Simpson pick was the biggest surprise of round one? Maybe the biggest surprise of the draft? I mean, there was some thought that maybe he could maybe pop into the end of round one. 13 overall to the Rams. I think that was a pretty big surprise for most people. Well, one SEC defensive coordinator told Rittenberg, quote, "I honestly was surprised. I was surprised by the team, too." Another SEC defensive coordinator said Jalen Milroe and Bryce Young both were tougher to prepare for than Simpson. Quote, "For him to go that high, I was a little bit like, wow, okay. I don't know how he practices. I don't know his mind. They were saying he was banged up in the back stretch, but he was just okay. Maybe he has those qualities that you can't coach that some of the NFL teams fell in love with." Other SEC coaches acknowledged some concerns with Simpson. Quote, "He's not ready to be a starter in the NFL right now. He's got work to do." Another defensive coordinator said, quote, It's a great fit for him from a system standpoint and who he's going to be behind for a year. There's a lot of similarities with Stafford. The pick was the biggest surprise, a guy who didn't have a ton of starts. But when he played well. His long game is going to be really good. So really, most SEC coaches talking there about Ty Simpson sort of falling in line with what a lot of the other perspective was on Ty Simpson. Now, there was a comment on Garrett Nussmeier, which I think you'll appreciate. After talking about all the other quarterbacks that went ahead of him, this was a defensive coordinator who faced Nussmeier. That's all it said. It doesn't say what conference. If it was SEC, if it was one of the Power Fours, Clemson, Southern Cal a year ago, whoever, right? Or a G5, whatever. It just says a defensive coordinator who faced Nussmeier. Quote, "Who knows why he fell so far? But I studied him, and that kid is a stud. Obviously didn't have a great season, but he's a good player." So some love and respect there for Nuss. And then one more, an SEC defensive coordinator on Mansour Delane said, quote, "He was a one-year starter, did a tremendous job. His best football is still ahead of him. He's a tough guy, can run, he'll do well." So just some anonymous coaches around the Southeastern Conference talking about Nussmeier, Mansour Delane, and sharing a lot of the questions about Ty Simpson, who went 13th overall. Hey, I just told you about Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana. Of course, a lot of times Sunshine goes hand in hand with First South Farm Credit. Of course, FirstSouthLand.com is the website, FirstSouthLand.com. At First South Farm Credit, they have been first in agriculture for more than 100 years. You want to buy land for agriculture? First South Farm Credit. Maybe you're buying new land. A lot of times people who buy land already own land, so you want to take some of your equity, roll it into your new property. What you ultimately have to know is buying land is different than buying a home. So you need a lender who is familiar with the process of buying land and some of the intricacies of that. Well, that's First South Farm Credit because that's what they've done since 1916. For 110 years at First South Farm Credit, they've helped Louisianians buy land. They can help you buy your farm equipment if you need that as well. FirstSouthLand.com, FirstSouthLand.com. If you're thinking of buying land, your first call should be to First South Farm Credit. Online, FirstSouthLand.com. That's FirstSouthLand.com. All right, we do it every day about this time. Let's go around the SEC.
Around the SEC, bringing you the biggest news from the nation's best conference, the Ole Miss Rebels.
Ole Miss has hired Patrick Kelly, son of former LSU coach Brian Kelly, as a support and operations assistant. Started his career at Grand Valley State before joining his dad's staff at LSU. He was grad assistant, primarily focused on tight ends. He was there for 2 years before coaching, being more of a recruiting specialist. 2025, promoted to support and operations. Now, Patrick Kelly joins Pete Golding at Ole Miss.
The Alabama Crimson Tide.
Defensive coordinator Kane Womack spoke to reporters at a charity golf tournament, talked about the spring portal window helping the Tide's defense. He said last year there were a lot of variables coming out of spring, trying to retain the younger roster. It's kind of put the defense in a good place, not having guys leave. So no spring portal gave them comfort knowing they can develop players that they have, and they like. Alabama is replacing 7 starters from last year's defense, including all 3 defensive linemen and both inside backers.
The Missouri Tigers.
A.D. Laird Veach has received a 3-year contract extension. He was hired May 1st of 2024. He's led the athletic department for the last 2 years. His new contract now runs through 2032. He'll make $1.75 million per year.
The Florida Gators.
And top 100 offensive tackle Elijah Hutchinson has committed to Florida. Picked the Gators over Clemson, Vanderbilt, and Virginia Tech. He's the 91st overall prospect, the 7th best offensive tackle. And quick basketball note as well. Florida's signed Slovenian power forward Domen Petrovic, 6'9" power forward, played this past season in Slovenia. He's 22 years old, averaged nearly 17 and 7 this past year. He's Florida's 2nd international commit. All right, there you have it. That is Around the SEC. Tuesday shows are powered by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana. Baseball Tigers are back on the diamond tonight. They'll take on Tulane out at the box, a 6:30 first pitch. Jay Johnson, when we come back, Jay Johnson on his coach's show last night updated several of the injuries the Tigers are facing as they take on Tulane tonight and then hit the road to take on Georgia. We'll let you hear from the skipper when we return on AFR.
After further review.
Man, if you are thinking of building a pool, let me suggest you go to Instagram and check out Duplessis Pools on Instagram, because I tell you this all the time. You can go to Instagram and see a lot of pool companies that build really, really beautiful pools. This one in Lafayette is the Blanchard family. It's luxury oasis extended with the extra deck, stonescapes, extra lighting, heater and chiller, plus salt and automation. They can do everything at Duplessis, and they're going to build you a beautiful pool like so many other companies. The biggest differentiator, though, is the quality of the work. The industry standard is 1 year for a workmanship warranty. Duplessis Pools offers you a 10-year workmanship warranty. They stand by their work. They don't rush the process. DuplessisBuilders.net. DuplessisBuilders.net.
After further review, powered by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana.
She thinks my tractor's sexy. It really turns her on. She's always staring at me.
Hey, remember, if you want breaking news texted to you, all you have to do is text LSN, 3 letters, LSN, as in LouisianaSports.net. Text LSN to 225-499-1045. 225-499-1045. You text LSN to 225-499-1045. You get a response to opt in, And so whenever we have breaking news, boom, we'll text you. Like Sunday morning when Ahmad Hudson committed, we had the story and boom, we sent it on the text line. So if you want breaking news as it happens, text LSN to 225-499-1045, 499-1045. LSU baseball back on the diamond tonight. Tigers take on Tulane out at Alex Box Stadium. We'll preview this game a bit more in hour number 3, but I know the feeling many have is, well, you can't miss any opportunity. That's true. I mean, LSU's 55 in the RPI, and you got 7 games remaining. This is your final midweek non-conference game. But Tulane's RPI, I looked at it earlier. I think it's 145. This game isn't going to help you in the RPI. It'd be a bad loss if you lost it, but you got plenty of those already. The bottom line is it's going to come down to the weekends, and you have 2 top 16 RPI opponents remaining. Georgia's 16 in the RPI. Florida's 12 in the RPI. So you've got 6 games remaining against top 16 RPI teams. It's an opportunity, if you're able to go play those games, win a couple of series, to boost your RPI and put yourself in a position where you go to Hoover feeling better about your chance to make the NCAA tournament, to punch your tickets to regionals. But you could certainly avoid a bad loss tonight by beating Tulane. And LSU's been playing better. That's undeniable. Since Jay Johnson has made the switch to play the young guys, they have gotten, I think the way he phrased it over the weekend was sort of mental relief, basically just not looking over their shoulder if they strike out, wondering are they going to get pulled. Just go play. And I think it's served this team well. But there are a couple of injuries that we're keeping an eye on as LSU plays Tulane tonight and then heads to Athens for the 3-game set starting on Friday. John Pearson and Chris Stanfield may be notably among them than Case and Evans. First, here was Jay on his radio show updating John Pearson, who's been battling that hamstring injury.
He took batting practice all 3 days, was able to field some ground balls. It still looks like he's a little bit limited. I did put him on the roster this weekend for a pinch hit opportunity. We didn't need to do that. I think just the quick movement thing and running the bases is still a little bit, want to be careful with it.
So standing in the box and swinging a bat, probably no issue. Standing at third and playing that position, probably no issue. But running the bases would probably be the problem if Pearson got on and then having to open it up. So available for a pinch hit this weekend likely, but I think you'll continue to see the plan as they move forward here. Without Pearson. Stanfield in left apparently is still not close.
I would say he's a little bit further out at about 70% maybe as of tomorrow, as of yesterday. I saw him running full speed in the outfield, and it didn't quite look like full speed, so we got a little ways to go there.
And it's interesting because it's giving you some flexibility in the outfield. We saw Yaman start game 3. You have options there and left if that's the way you want to go. But I'd rather have Chris Stanfield than not. He's a veteran player. He's a great leader. He's a great defensive outfielder as well. But it's just been very obvious watching Chris Stanfield play. A season ago, he led your team in hitting in conference play. And this year, he just has never looked comfortable ever since hurting his hand in the second game of the season, even after he returned. So Stanfield and Pearson look like they're not going to be available in their regular capacities this weekend. Kason Evans is going to be interesting. He's obviously missed his last 2 starts. He got scratched against Mississippi State just before first pitch and then didn't pitch this past weekend. So what's the latest on Evans?
He played catch Friday. He's actually at the stadium throwing right now as we speak. And the goal is to have him bullpen on Wednesday, and then we have to evaluate where he's at post bullpen and how he feels on Wednesday. But certainly really positive news on that front right now.
The significance of Kason Evans throwing a bullpen is that actually gets him on the mound instead of just playing catch or long tossing or throwing a flat ground. Like, he's actually going to get on a mound and go through and do what he'd have to do in a game. So get him up on the mound, let him throw a little bit, see how he feels coming off of that. Could he give you something this weekend? I think you're obviously in a much better position now than you were scratching Evans 20 minutes before first pitch, whatever it was, against Mississippi State, because now you can prepare Schmidt to go into a weekend on his normal rest to pitch game 1, pause subsequent in game 2, And then you take game 3, TBD. Of course, hopefully you don't need Cowan in either of the first 2 games, so you can use him in game 3. But, and then potentially Evans in a relief capacity, or maybe as an opener in game 3. We'll see. But possible that you'd have Evans, but he'll throw a bullpen, as Jay said, on Wednesday. All right, it's After Further Review. We're glad you're hanging out with us here. We are brought to you by Parish Construction and Roofing. Man, we had a deluge last weekend. If you had roof issues as a result of that rain, we'd love to help you out. ParishBuilt.com, ParishBuilt.com. Do business with someone you know. Voted by you the best roofing company in the best of Baton Rouge for 2026, so thank you for that honor. And as always, if it's repairs, replacements, commercial, residential, gutters, soft wash, we do it all. We do it better than anyone. And, of course, we'll treat you great. Do business with someone you know. Parish Construction and Roofing. ParishBuilt.com, ParishBuilt.com. All right, y'all, Sports Center's coming up. Coach Pete Jenkins joins us. Hour number 2 coming up next.
After Further Review.
Speaking of all the rain, when the rains come, that's typically a time when we see the power go out, unfortunately. We know what to do for your home, right? Standby generators for homes in Louisiana is a very common thing, but what about for your business? When power goes out, what does that mean for your business? If your business can't afford to go offline, you need Arco Power Systems. ARCCO, arco.com, arco.com, arco.com. They have been amazing when it comes to emergency response and storms. They'll have National Guard members actually pick up Arco workers and deploy them to go get power systems back online. And Arco, during a storm, works 24/7, 365. So they are never offline, just like their generators. Arco is Generac Industrial Energy. If you need a generator for your business, you need Arco Power Systems. Check them out online. Start that process today at arco.com. ARCCO, arco.com.